they are inclined to have the voices of the people they study in the East or in the Orient as evidences, expressing the people expressing their own impression about their belief. Why do they do this? Why do they practice prayer in that way? So they have a factual evidence to show that this is actually what the people who practice that kind of religion or social tradition or so understand by doing this. And I'm just like a transmitter of this bulk of literature to the West. But in the past, that was not the case. It was a kind of an observation, personal observation, and very biased and prejudiced interpretation of what I observe and communicate it to my own people in the way I do it, without any kind of objection from the people of the Orient who might think that what I have said is not correct, because they were not in a position to do so. Right? So, if you try to define Orientalism from an academic perspective, what can we think about it? How we can define it? I just explained to you the scene now. Orientalism discusses this and is interested in that. So if this is the case, how do you define Orientalism now? يا جماعة دي في سنة تانية، يعني سنة رابعة اللي مش هيشتغل بعد كده مش هاخد شهادته ومروح. Man, you have something in mind? Similar. Orwa?
No, I feel comfortable with what you're telling, because it's I was not very aware of Orientalism just the minutes before I stepped into this room, but I had some clues, and those clues were quite right, because we have in Sweden a lot of articles the latest time in the newspapers about Orientalism as something bad. But just 20 years ago, this Orientalism was something good, because it was surveying the life in the East in a proper way. It was said that, and everybody believed in this, but there came this critical point when everything turned, and we realized in the West that we were more making an offense,
right?
Yes,
right.
By the Orientalists.
Right. That's why the word itself, the term itself, does not exist in modern dictionaries, because they feel this is an out-of-date term that has no existence so far. So that's why you can't find it, especially in the small dictionaries. Some more accurate definition of Orientalism would be needed now. It is not just like the way we look at it, but it has to be more specific.
It's a search or something like that the European did, or the European Western, to see or to justify from their point of view what they see or feel about the East.
Right, you nearly there. Right, let me just formulate it in a more short and concise and direct way. Actually, Orientalism, in Edward Said's point of view, you will find it here. It is a style of thought based upon an في فئة كانت مختصة بتحقيق المخطوطات وابحاث الاشياء دي وكلام من ده، دول معظمهم ما كانوش، ما انا هقول لك اهوت.
يعني
ما انت زي ما تقري بس هنا شويه.
لا مسلم ولا هو هيفهم حاجه في تحقيق الحديث او معين.
لا there are people who were historians, people who were working in the preservation of history and cultures, people who were presenting into this, making new discoveries. That's, you know, when someone like edits a new manuscript in Islamic philosophy, this was something of immense importance to the West, because as I said that at the beginning, the Islamic philosophy, which was like a combination of a development of the existing corpus of the Greek philosophy with some commentaries and enhancement of these philosophical concepts and producing them and introducing them to the West. This was something that needed to be thoroughly discussed and examined by Western Orientalists. Western, let us say academics, okay? But not every one of them was mainly interested in the pure aim of academia. Many of them were working for the judgment, for the governments, they were working for the military think tanks, they were working for the policy makers in order to justify their intervention in their colonies. You know, like, you know, when we said that we have brought enlightenment to this country, we brought you into modern life, and we provided you with such and such, we brought you out of the darkness of ignorance, and we made you into that and that advanced. Like, you know, this is the, you know, all the ideologies. Do you think that, you know, when you look at someone like George Bush, do you think that he's just creating this ideology of, you know, he's very ignorant himself. He's just backed up by groups of think tanks and people who have much interest, like people who have interest in the economy, in the politics, in the geography of the area, no matter if they are Zionists, if they are whatever. But behind him is this, like what we call as the what's the word? There's a word like, it was like even like a movie that carries this name. But this comes from the policy. This doesn't come from the policymakers, but it comes from the political theoreticians who are involved into this. Like, you know, the Paul Wolfowitz and other people who call that the hawks of the White House, Suqul. Okay, so they are just like the engineers of the plans, the political plans in the masterminds. Yes, it is true. So all this is based on such a corpus of literature that is gathered about the Orient or about the Middle East, so they can present it as a justification for their activities in the Middle East. So I'm talking about the meaning of Orientalism here, and from what we said, it can be thought of as a style of thought that is based on an ontological and epistemological distinction. يعني عايزين نعمل تمييز وجودي وتمييز معرفي ما بين الشرق وما بين الغرب. يعني عاوزين نقول احنا مين من ناحية الوجود، احنا مين، احنا الوست مين، ومن هم ال people in the east, and how to know them. This is the pattern of specific style, specific methodology through which we come to know about this Orient. Epistemology يعني اللي هو احنا بنسميه باللغة العربية نظرية المعرفة. كيف ندرك المعرفة؟ يعني مثلا من أين مصادر المعرفة نستقيها؟ العلوم مثلا الكونية، دائما في ناس مثلا تقول نحبذ ان احنا نروح للعلوم القرآنية والكلام ده عشان نوصل لكده، ولكن